Pharaoh and his or her divinity. Classical Greece, descriptions of the divinity of the pharaoh are much more infrequent in sources from classical Greece. One Ptolemaic era hymn describes the divinity of the pharaoh, though this may reflect Greek notions of divine kingship just as much as it could reflect Egyptian ones. The historian Herodotus explicitly denies this, claiming that Egyptian priests rejected any notion of the divinity of the king. The only explicit classical Greek source which describes the divinity of Pharaoh is contained in the writings of Diodorus Siculus in the 1st century BCE, who in turn relies on Hecateuch of Abdera as his source of information. Diodorus slightly contradicts himself in a different passage where he asserts that Darius I was the first ruler of Egypt to be honored as a king. Rabbinic literature, even after the reign of the Egyptian kings and pharaohs, the notion of Pharaoh's self-notion as a divine being survived and is described in rabbinic literature. In these sources, the pharaoh is described as hubristically asserting his own divinity and yet compared to the one true God, is no more than an impotent human. Mechilta of Rabbi Ishmael Shirach 8.32 names Pharaoh among those who proclaim themselves as gods, alongside Sennacherib and Nebuchadnezzar. Genesis Rabbah 89.3 invokes Pharaoh, describing himself as the god over the Nile River. In Exodus Rabbah, Pharaoh boasts that he is the creator and owner of the Nile. God is then said to have responded to this statement by challenging the pharaoh over who owns the Nile, as God proceeds to create a disaster by bringing forth frogs from it that consume Egypt's agriculture. In other midrashic texts, Pharaoh asserts himself as the creator of the universe and even of himself. In the Tanhuma, in commentary of Ezekiel, Pharaoh is said to have proclaimed himself as the Lord of the universe. Pharaoh is represented as a heretical figure who presents himself as divine, and these texts then claim that his claims were exposed when he had to go to the Nile to relieve himself.